The crystal spires of Zelthara Prime stretched toward the stars like frozen lightning. Admiral Kyrek 7 stood on the observation deck of the Imperial Command Center, his four eyes scanning the endless fleet formations that filled the space around the capital world. 3,000 years of conquest had built this empire, 3,000 years of perfect victories. The Zeltharian Empire controlled 847 star systems. Every species they had encountered had fallen within days. Their military doctrine was flawless. Their crystal warships were indestructible. Their psionic commanders could predict enemy movements before they happened. No force in the galaxy could stand against them. Kyrek 7 felt the familiar pulse of satisfaction through his neural implants. The Empire's strength came from order, precision, and overwhelming force. Every battle followed the same pattern. The Imperial fleet would arrive. The enemy would see the massive crystal ships and realize resistance was pointless. Surrender would follow within hours. A soft chime drew his attention to the holographic display floating before him. Intelligence Officer Vex 12 materialized as a shimmering blue figure. "Admiral, we have completed the survey of Sector 7743, Vex 12 reported. "We have identified a system suitable for expansion. Third planet from the local star shows signs of a developing civilization." Kyrek 7 nodded. "Another routine conquest. Classification level?" "Category 12, sir. Primitive. They have achieved basic faster-than-light travel but show no signs of advanced weaponry. The species calls itself human, and their world Earth. Our projections indicate standard pacification procedures will be sufficient." The Admiral's mandibles clicked in amusement. Category 12 threats were the lowest classification. Most surrendered before the first shot was fired. Deploy a standard subjugation fleet. 200 ships should be more than adequate. "Yes, Admiral. Shall I assign Commander Thek 5 to lead the operation?" "No." Kyrek 7 paused, studying the tactical display. Something about this routine assignment felt different, though he could not identify why. "I will personally oversee this operation. It has been too long since I witnessed a conquest firsthand." Vex 12's hologram flickered with surprise. "Sir, with respect, your presence hardly seems necessary for such a minor engagement." "Perhaps. But the Empire's strength comes from attention to detail. Even the smallest victories must be perfect." Kyrek 7 turned away from the display. "Prepare my flagship. We depart within the standard cycle." 3 days later, the Imperial fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. Kyrek 7 stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, his flagship and one of the largest vessels ever built. The ship stretched over 15 kilometers from bow to stern, its crystal hull gleaming with stored energy. "Long-range sensors detect several orbital installations around the third planet," reported Tactical Officer Zeph 3. "Multiple small vessels in the system. No significant military presence detected." "Excellent. Open a communication channel to the planet's surface." The main view screen activated, showing the blue-green world ahead. Kyrek 7 had delivered the same message hundreds of times before. "Primitive species of Earth." His voice echoed across space, translated by the ship's systems. "You are now subjects of the Zeltharian Empire. Surrender your military forces and prepare for integration into our civilization. Resistance will be met with total destruction." The response came faster than expected. A human face appeared on the screen. Tan skin, dark hair, and 2 small eyes that seemed to sparkle with something Kyrek 7 had never seen before in a conquered species. The human appeared to be smiling. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Space Command," the human said. "We've received your message. Our response is simple. Come and take it." The communication ended abruptly. Kyrek 7 stared at the blank screen in confusion. In 3,000 years of conquest, no species had ever responded with such obvious defiance. Most begged for mercy. Others tried to negotiate. None had ever sounded excited. "Sir," Zeph 3 reported, "we are detecting movement from the human vessels. They appear to be advancing toward our position." "Advancing?" Kyrek 7's 4 eyes widened. "Impossible. Our fleet outnumbers them 50 to 1. "Confirmed, sir. 68 human vessels are moving to intercept us." The Admiral felt a strange sensation he had not experienced in centuries. Uncertainty. According to every tactical manual, every psychological profile, every strategic doctrine in the Imperial database, this should not be happening. Inferior species ran when faced with overwhelming force. They did not attack. "Very well," Kyrek 7 said, settling into his command chair. If they choose destruction over wisdom, we shall accommodate them. All ships assume attack formation. Prepare to demonstrate the futility of resistance. The Imperial fleet moved with perfect precision. 200 crystal warships arranged themselves in the traditional battle formation, a wall of overwhelming firepower that had never failed. Energy readings spiked as weapon systems charged. The human fleet approached in what could generously be called a formation. Their ships were small, crude, and moved with none of the elegant coordination of Imperial vessels. Some appeared to be converted civilian craft. Others looked like they had been hastily assembled from spare parts. Human vessels in range. Zetheran announced, "Fire." The first salvo from the Imperial fleet lit up space with brilliant energy beams. The humans scattered like startled fish, their formation dissolving into chaos. Several human ships exploded immediately. Others spun away, trailing debris and atmosphere. But something was wrong. Instead of retreating, the surviving human vessels continued their advance. More disturbing, they were not following any recognizable tactical doctrine. They wove between Imperial ships in seemingly random patterns, fired at unexpected targets, and used maneuvers that made no strategic sense. "Sir," Zetheran reported with obvious confusion, "one of the human vessels just rammed the IDS Crystal Storm." Rammed? Kyrex 7 could not process what he was hearing. Intentionally? "Yes, sir. The human ship's commander appears to have deliberately crashed his vessel into our destroyer's weapon array. Both ships are heavily damaged." On the tactical display, Kyrex 7 watched something unprecedented unfold. The humans were losing. Their casualties far exceeded Imperial losses, but they were fighting with a ferocity that defied all logic. They used debris as weapons. They coordinated attacks through what appeared to be pure instinct. Most disturbing of all, they showed no signs of fear. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the human fleet was destroyed, but the cost made Kyrex 7's blood run cold. 23 Imperial vessels had been damaged or destroyed. In 3,000 years of conquest, no Category 12 species had ever inflicted such losses. "Damage report," the Admiral commanded. "Severe casualties, sir. The humans employed tactics we have never encountered. They used their own reactors as weapons. Coordinated ramming attacks." Some vessels continued fighting even after suffering critical damage. Kyrex 7 stared at the tactical display showing the aftermath of the battle. Floating among the wreckage were the remains of both fleets. But something in the debris field caught his attention. A message pod broadcasting on an open frequency. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen," the recorded voice said. "To whoever finds this message, we were not the first species you conquered, and we will not be the last. But we were the first to make you bleed. Remember that. Remember that we made you pay a price. And remember that others are watching." The message ended. Kyrex 7 felt something he had never experienced before. A chill of genuine uncertainty. The humans had lost. Earth lay defenseless before his remaining fleet. By every measure, this had been a successful conquest. So why did it feel like the beginning of something terrible? Captain Sarah Chen pulled herself through the twisted wreckage of her ship's bridge. Emergency lighting cast red shadows across the damaged walls. The UES Defiance had taken a direct hit from a Zetheran energy cannon. But somehow the old destroyer was still flying. "Damage report," she called out, wincing as she touched a cut on her forehead. "Engines at 40%, replied Lieutenant Martinez from the engineering station. "Weapons are mostly offline. Life support is holding, but barely." Sarah looked at the tactical display. 3 days had passed since the first battle with the alien fleet. The initial engagement had cost Earth most of its space navy, but it had taught them something valuable. The aliens could be hurt. Captain, Communications Officer Park spoke up. "We're receiving a transmission from Admiral Reeves on Luna Base." The main screen flickered to life, showing the weathered face of Earth's senior military commander. Admiral Reeves looked tired, but his eyes burned with determination. "Sarah, good to see you're still breathing," Reeves said. "We've been analyzing the wreckage from the first engagement. Our scientists have learned some interesting things about these Zetharians." "Tell me we found a weakness," Sarah replied. "Better than that. We found out they have a problem. They're predictable. Dr. Martinez at the research station says their ships follow exact patterns. Same formations, same tactics, same responses to every situation. It's like they're following a manual that never changes." Sarah felt a spark of hope. "What about their weapons?" "Powerful but slow to recharge. And here's the interesting part. They seem confused when we don't follow standard military tactics. When Lieutenant Wong rammed his fighter into their cruiser, it took them almost 30 seconds to respond. Like they couldn't process what was happening. The communication was interrupted by an alarm. "Captain," Martinez called out, "sensors are picking up movement from the alien fleet. They're heading for Earth." Admiral Reeves nodded grimly. "We knew this was coming. Sarah, you and the other surviving ships are our only defense now. The orbital platforms won't last long against their firepower. What are our orders, sir? Make them pay for every meter. And remember, they've never fought anyone like us before. Use that." The transmission ended. Sarah looked around her damaged bridge at the crew members who had survived the first battle. They were scared, she could see it in their eyes. But they were also angry. The aliens had come to their home expecting an easy conquest. They were about to learn that humans did not give up easily. "All hands, this is the captain," Sarah announced over the ship's intercom. "We're about to face an enemy that has conquered thousands of worlds. They think we're just another weak species that will roll over and surrender. They're wrong. Today we show them what humans are made of." The Zetheran fleet approached Earth in perfect formation. 177 crystal ships moved like a single organism, their hulls gleaming with stored energy. Admiral Kyrex 7 watched the planet grow larger on his view screen. According to all projections, this would be the final battle. After this, Earth would belong to the Empire. "Sir," reported Tactical Officer Zeph-3, "we are detecting human vessels moving to intercept. 12 ships total." Kyrex 7 felt his mandibles click in amusement. 12 ships against his entire fleet. The humans had learned nothing from their defeat. "Maintain course. Prepare to finish what we started." The human vessels approached in what appeared to be another chaotic formation. Their ships looked even more battered than before, clearly hastily repaired and barely space-worthy. Kyrex 7 expected another brief engagement followed by total victory. He was wrong. The first human ship to reach weapons range was the UES Defiance. Instead of engaging the Imperial formation head-on, it dove beneath the fleet and fired at the underside of a crystal cruiser. The shot did minimal damage, but it forced the Imperial ships to break formation to pursue. "What are they doing?" Kyrex 7 muttered. More human ships joined the attack, but not in any coordinated manner. Each vessel seemed to follow its own plan, attacking different targets with different tactics. One destroyer used the gravity well of Earth's moon to slingshot around and attack from an unexpected angle. Another ship hid in the shadow of a space station and ambushed passing Imperial vessels. Most disturbing of all, the humans were talking to each other constantly. Imperial communications intercepted a stream of chatter between human ships, jokes, encouragement, tactical updates, even music. It was chaos, but somehow it worked. "Sir," Zeph-3 reported with growing confusion, "the human ship UES Defiance has just fired its main engines directly at our formation. They're using their own exhaust as a weapon." Kyrex 7 watched in disbelief as the human destroyer's engine wash blinded the sensors of 3 Imperial cruisers. While they were temporarily unable to target effectively, other human ships swooped in for hit-and-run attacks. The battle that should have lasted minutes stretched into hours. The humans were clearly losing. Their ships were outgunned and outnumbered, but they refused to accept defeat. When their weapons failed, they rammed enemy vessels. When their shields collapsed, they used debris as cover. When their communications were jammed, they coordinated through pure instinct. Captain Sarah Chen fought her ship like a thing possessed. The Defiance was dying around her, systems failing, hull breaches on every deck, half the crew dead or wounded. But she kept fighting. When the main guns went offline, she used the point defense lasers. When those failed, she ordered her crew to vent atmosphere through the cargo bay doors to create a makeshift propulsion system. "Captain," Lieutenant Martinez called out, "we've got a Zetheran cruiser on our tail. Our weapons are gone and engines are failing." Sarah looked at the tactical display. The alien ship was closing fast, its weapons charging for a killing blow. The Defiance had nothing left to fight with except one thing. "Martinez, can you overload the reactor?" "Yes, ma'am, but that would destroy us too." "Sometimes you have to lose a battle to win a war." Sarah turned to address her crew. "All hands abandon ship. Get to the escape pods now." "Captain, we're not leaving you," Martinez protested. "That's an order. Tell them what we did here. Tell them we made the aliens bleed." As her crew evacuated, Sarah set course directly for the Zetheran cruiser. The alien seemed to realize what was happening and tried to change course, but it was too late. The Defiance, traveling at full speed with an overloaded reactor, slammed into the crystal ship's hull. The explosion lit up space like a new star. Admiral Kyrex 7 stared at the expanding fireball in shock. The human captain had destroyed herself in one of his most powerful cruisers rather than surrender. In 3,000 years of conquest, he had never seen anything like it. "Admiral," Zeph 3 reported quietly, "the human fleet has been destroyed. Earth's orbital defenses are down. The planet is defenseless." Kyrex 7 nodded slowly, but he felt no satisfaction in victory. The humans had lost, but somehow it felt like the Empire had lost something too. For the first time in his long career, a defeated enemy had made him question the cost of conquest. On the view screen, Earth hung like a blue jewel against the stars. Soon it would be another Imperial world, its people another conquered species. But Kyrex 7 could not forget the voice of the human captain, the determination in her eyes as she chose destruction over surrender. The Empire had won. So why did victory taste like ashes? Dr. Elena Vasquez woke up in a cell that looked like it was made from living crystal. The walls pulsed with soft blue light, and the air hummed with an energy that made her teeth ache. She tried to remember how she had gotten here. Then the memories came flooding back. The failed assault on the Zetheran flagship, her research ship exploding around her, the alien boarding pods cutting through the hull. A section of the wall dissolved, and a tall alien figure entered. It had 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern on its elongated head, and its skin had a metallic sheen that reflected the blue light. This was her first close look at a Zetheran. "You are the one called Elena Vasquez," the alien said. Its voice came from a translation device that hung around its neck. "I am Intelligence Officer Vex 12. You will answer questions." Elena sat up straighter, trying to project confidence she did not feel. "Name, rank, and serial number. That's all you get. Your military protocols are irrelevant," Vex 12 replied. "We do not torture prisoners. We simply need to understand your species. Your behavior in battle was unexpected." Despite her situation, Elena felt a spark of scientific curiosity. Unexpected how? "You fought when you should have fled. You sacrificed when you should have preserved. You showed joy when facing certain death." The alien's 4 eyes focused on her intently. "Our psychological models cannot explain this behavior." Elena almost smiled. "Maybe your models are wrong. Impossible. We have conquered 10,000 species using these same models. Every intelligent race follows predictable patterns when faced with superior force. You submit or you die. There is no third option. 10,000 species?" Elena felt sick. "You've done this 10,000 times? The Empire has brought order to the galaxy for 3 millennia. Every world we encounter becomes part of our civilization. It is natural law, the strong rule the weak. And every single species just gave up?" Vex 12 seemed puzzled by the question. "Of course. When faced with certain defeat, logical beings surrender to preserve their lives. This is basic survival instinct." Elena stared at the alien with growing understanding. "You don't get it, do you? You've never fought anyone who actually wanted to fight back. Your species clearly wanted to fight, but your actions made no sense. Your ship captains destroyed their own vessels rather than surrender. Your soldiers continued attacking even when mortally wounded. Most disturbing, your communications during battle contained laughter. We call it gallows humor," Elena explained. "When things are at their worst, sometimes all you can do is laugh. This serves no tactical purpose. It's not about tactics. It's about being human." The interrogation continued for hours. Vex 12 seemed genuinely confused by human behavior. The alien described other conquered species, the logical Threx who calculated the odds and surrendered immediately, the proud Zentai who fought briefly but gave up when defeat became certain, the peaceful mollusk who offered no resistance at all. "Every species follows the same pattern," Vex 12 explained. "Initial resistance, calculation of odds, acceptance of superior force, integration into the Empire. Your species has broken this pattern." Elena began to understand something that chilled her. "You haven't just conquered all those species. You've broken them, turned them into copies of yourselves. We have brought them peace and order. You've made them afraid to dream. Meanwhile, on Earth's surface, the human resistance was proving to be unlike anything the Zetheran occupation forces had encountered. Instead of a broken population awaiting integration, They found a world full of people who seemed to view the invasion as a personal insult. Commander Marcus Torres crouched in the ruins of downtown Denver, watching Zetheran patrol craft hover over the city. His ragtag group of resistance fighters included a former teacher, 2 mechanics, a teenage hacker, and his grandmother. According to every military manual ever written, they should have been helpless against an advanced alien army. Instead, they were making the occupiers' lives miserable. "Incoming patrol," whispered Jenny, the teenage hacker who had somehow figured out how to intercept alien communications. 3 hover tanks heading down 16th Street. Marcus nodded to his grandmother, a 70-year-old former demolitions expert named Rose. She had been having the time of her life since the invasion began. "Your show, Grandma." Rose activated the improvised explosive device she had hidden in a seemingly innocent food cart. The blast knocked 1 hover tank out of the sky and damaged the other 2. Before the aliens could respond, Marcus and his team melted away into the crowd of human civilians. This scene was playing out across the planet. Humans were not following the standard pattern of conquered peoples. Instead of accepting their fate, they were adapting, learning, and fighting back with creativity that baffled their occupiers. In the Zetheran Command Center, Admiral Kyrex 7 reviewed reports from across Earth with growing frustration. Every day brought new examples of human unpredictability. Resistance cells used everything from kitchen chemicals to children's toys as weapons. Human civilians refused to cooperate with registration procedures. Most disturbing, intercepted communications suggested that human morale was actually improving. "Sir," reported Ground Commander Hex 9, "we have another situation in the city called New York. Human insurgents have somehow weaponized their waste management system." "Explain." "They redirected sewage flow to flood our forward command post. The smell is indescribable. Our troops are requesting evacuation." Kyrex 7 felt his mandibles click in irritation. "How is this possible? We control their infrastructure." "Yes, sir, but the humans appear to know their own systems better than we do. They use maintenance tunnels, service corridors, and emergency systems in ways we never anticipated." Another report arrived from the Science Division. Human prisoners were not responding to standard pacification procedures. Instead of becoming docile and compliant like other conquered species, they seemed to be learning from each other, sharing information, and planning new forms of resistance. But the most disturbing report came from Vex 12's interrogation of the human scientist. According to his analysis, humans did not see conquest as a natural law. They viewed it as an aberration to be corrected. "Sir," Vex 12 concluded, "I believe we have encountered something unprecedented. This species does not accept defeat as final. They appear to view setbacks as temporary obstacles to be overcome." Kyrex 7 studied the intelligence reports. Human resistance was not decreasing over time. It was becoming more sophisticated. They were learning Zetheran tactics, adapting to occupation procedures, and finding new ways to cause problems. Worse, they were spreading their ideas to other species within the Empire. Intercepted communications suggested that news of human resistance was reaching conquered worlds throughout the galaxy. For the first time in 3,000 years, other species were beginning to ask dangerous questions about the nature of Imperial rule. "Admiral," Hex 9 reported, "we have confirmed intelligence that human engineers have been studying wreckage from our destroyed vessels. They appear to be attempting to reverse engineer our technology. That is impossible. Our technology is centuries beyond their understanding. Nevertheless, sir, they are trying. And according to our psychological profiles, this species does not accept impossible as a valid concept, Admiral." Kyrex 7 stared at the tactical display showing Earth. What should have been a routine, occupation was becoming the Empire's first prolonged insurgency. The humans were not just resisting, they were learning, adapting, and somehow growing stronger from each defeat. For 3,000 years, the Empire's strength had come from the predictability of conquest. Every species followed the same pattern. Every victory led to the same result. The Imperial system worked because it had never encountered a species that refused to accept the rules. But humans did not follow rules they had not written themselves. And that terrified the Empire more than any weapon ever could. Agent Thylex 9 stood before the holographic display in the Empire's most secure intelligence facility. As the Zetheran Empire's chief strategist, He had analyzed the conquest patterns of 10,000 worlds. His psychological models had never failed to predict how a species would respond to Imperial force. Until now. The data streams flowing across the display told an impossible story. 6 months after the conquest of Earth, human resistance had not only failed to diminish, it had spread to 17 other worlds within the Empire. Species that had been peacefully integrated for centuries were suddenly remembering what rebellion looked like. Computer, display behavioral analysis of species 7743C, designation human, Thylex 9 commanded. The hologram shifted to show comparative psychological profiles. Every other conquered species showed the same pattern: initial resistance, gradual acceptance, final integration. The human profile looked like nothing in the Imperial database. Anomaly detected, the computer announced. Subject species exhibits adaptive resistance syndrome. Stress response, increased aggression rather than submission. Learning curve, exponential rather than diminishing. Morale impact of casualties, strengthening rather than weakening. Thylex 9 studied the data with growing unease. According to the psychological analysis, humans actually became more dangerous the longer a conflict continued. They treated setbacks as learning opportunities. They found strength in adversity. Most disturbing of all, they appeared to enjoy the challenge of facing impossible odds. Computer, analyze human cultural communications. Focus on warfare-related content. The display filled with translated human songs, stories, and historical records. Thylex 9 read with mounting horror. Humans sang about their defeats. They told stories that glorified last stands and hopeless causes. Their history was filled with examples of small forces holding out against overwhelming enemies. They did not just accept suffering, they found meaning in it. A priority alert interrupted his analysis. Admiral Kyrex 7's image appeared in the display. Thylex 9, report to my flagship immediately. We have a situation. The situation, it turned out, was worse than anyone had imagined. In the past week, 3 separate incidents had shaken the Empire to its core. The first involved a human engineering team that had somehow escaped from a detention facility on Earth and made it to orbit. Their destination was a derelict Zetheran cruiser that had been left in Earth's asteroid belt after the initial battle. Show him the recording, Admiral Kyrex 7 ordered. The main view screen displayed footage from a reconnaissance drone. Thylex 9 watched in disbelief as human figures in crude spacesuits crawled over the hull of the damaged Imperial vessel. They were cutting into the ship's armor with tools that looked like they had been improvised from kitchen appliances. They should not be able to breach our hull with such primitive equipment, the Admiral said. Sir, reported Intelligence Officer Vex 12. Analysis suggests they are using a combination of thermal cutting and electromagnetic pulse generators. The pulse devices appear to have been constructed from their entertainment systems. Entertainment systems? Yes, sir. What they call gaming computers and music equipment. Somehow they have converted recreational devices into military-grade tools. The recording continued. Once inside the ship, the humans moved with purpose through the crystal corridors. They were not randomly looting. They knew exactly what they were looking for. Within hours, they had stripped the vessel of its central processing core, power distribution nodes, and weapons control systems. How did they know which systems to target? Thylex 9 asked. We believe they received technical information from Dr. Elena Vasquez during her interrogation, Vex 12 replied. She was asking questions about our technology under the guise of scientific curiosity. We thought she was simply trying to understand her captors. She was conducting espionage during her own interrogation. It appears so, sir. Admiral Kyrex 7 gestured to the display. Show him what they did with the stolen technology. The scene shifted to Earth's lunar base. In a cavern that had been hastily converted into a shipyard, human engineers were working on something that made Thylex 9's blood run cold. They had taken the Zetheran technology and combined it with their own systems to create a hybrid vessel unlike anything in the galaxy. The ship was clearly built from human components. Welded steel instead of grown crystal, chemical rockets instead of gravity manipulators. But integrated throughout the crude human framework were Zetheran systems that should have been incompatible with such primitive technology. Somehow, they had made it work. Computer analysis indicates the vessel combines Imperial shield technology with human maneuverability systems, Vex 12 reported. The result is a ship that can absorb damage like our cruisers while moving like their fighters. That is impossible, Thylex 9 protested. Our technology cannot interface with their systems. The operational principles are completely different. Nevertheless, sir, they have achieved integration. Our xenobiologists believe it is because humans do not accept technological limitations as absolute. They modify systems that were never designed to be modified. The implications hit Thylex 9 like a physical blow. If humans could successfully reverse engineer and improve upon Imperial technology, the balance of power in the galaxy could shift overnight. The Empire's advantage had always been technological superiority. Without that edge, their relatively small military could not maintain control over 10,000 worlds. Sir, Vex 12 continued, there have been 2 additional incidents. The first involves the prison facility on Kepler 442b. Human prisoners have somehow made contact with the indigenous Threx population. Admiral Kyrex 7 activated another display. The Threx were conquered 800 years ago. They have been model Imperial subjects since integration. Now this. The recording showed scenes from the mining colony on Kepler 442b. Threx workers who had labored quietly for centuries were suddenly refusing to report for duty. Even more disturbing, they were singing. The songs were clearly human in origin. Work songs, protest songs, anthems of defiance translated into the Threx harmonic language. How did the humans communicate with the Threx? Thylex 9 asked. Music, sir. Apparently, mathematical ratios translate across species barriers. The humans taught the Threx songs that express concepts our translators had never conveyed. Hope, defiance, the idea that current conditions do not have to be permanent. The third incident was perhaps the most serious. On the fortress world of Zetheran Prime, a mixed group of human prisoners and long-conquered alien species had successfully seized control of a weapons depot. The rebels were now broadcasting across local communication networks, spreading what Imperial analysts called contamination protocols. Contamination protocols? Human ideas, sir. The concept that any individual can choose to resist. The belief that defeat is temporary rather than final. The notion that small actions can lead to large changes. Vex 12 paused. These ideas appear to be infectious. Thylex 9 studied the strategic display showing the spreading unrest across the Empire. Red indicators marked worlds where resistance activities had been detected. In 6 months, the number had grown from 1 to over 200. At the current rate of spread, the entire Empire could be facing coordinated rebellion within a year. Computer, Project Imperial response capability for large-scale insurrection. The analysis was swift and brutal. The Empire had never needed to maintain large garrison forces because conquered species remained pacified. If even 10% of Imperial worlds experienced serious uprising, the military would be spread too thin to maintain order. Sir, Admiral Kyrex 7 said quietly, I have received reports from sector commanders across the Empire. The same pattern is emerging everywhere. Species that have been peaceful for centuries are asking questions they have never asked before. They want to know why they serve the Empire. They want to know if there are alternatives. Thylex 9 felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ship's temperature control. For 3,000 years, the Empire's greatest weapon had been psychological, the absolute certainty that resistance was futile. Every conquered species had accepted this truth because they had never seen evidence to the contrary. But humans had provided that evidence. They had shown the galaxy that even overwhelming force could be resisted, that even certain defeat could be meaningful, that even the impossible was just another challenge to be overcome. The Empire had conquered humanity in every measurable way. They controlled Earth's skies, occupied its cities, and imprisoned its leaders. By every standard of victory, the war was over. But somehow the humans had turned defeat into victory. They had lost every battle and won the war by changing the rules of engagement itself. For the first time in 3 millennia, the Zetheran Empire faced an enemy they could not defeat. An idea. And that idea was spreading across the galaxy like wildfire, carried by the wind of human defiance. The Empire was learning what humanity had always known. Some things were worth fighting for, even when victory seemed impossible. Especially when victory seemed impossible. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, watching the impossible sight before her. The hybrid vessel that human engineers had built from salvaged Zetheran technology was approaching Zetheran Prime. the capital world of the empire that had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. Around her, the most unlikely fleet in galactic history held formation. Human ships flew alongside vessels from dozens of liberated worlds. Threx harmony singers provided coordination through musical mathematics. Former Imperial slaves turned engineers kept captured Zetheran cruisers running with spare parts and determination. Pacifist species that had never owned weapons now piloted makeshift fighters built from mining equipment. "Admiral," reported Lieutenant Martinez, now her tactical officer. "Long-range sensors confirm the Imperial home fleet is moving to intercept." 2,000 vessels, sir," Sarah nodded calmly. "And our fleet strength?" 43 ships, various configurations. We are outnumbered approximately 50 to 1. Those odds would have been laughable a year ago. Now Sarah found herself smiling. "Signal all ships." Message reads, "Remember Earth. Remember that we choose how this ends." The response came back immediately from dozens of species in dozens of languages. But the meaning was universal. "We choose to fight." On Zetheran Prime, Emergency Session 7743 of the Imperial High Command convened in crisis. The Great Crystal Chamber, that had witnessed the planning of 10,000 conquests, now echoed with desperate voices as the Empire's leadership faced their first existential threat. "The rebel fleet will reach our system in 6 hours, reported Admiral Kyrek 7. "Our analysts project they will attempt to strike our command infrastructure." High Commander Zek Prime, the ancient Zetheran who had led the Empire for over a millennium, studied the tactical displays with growing unease. 43 ships against our entire home fleet. They cannot hope to achieve military victory. "With respect, sir," interjected Agent Thylex 9, "military victory may not be their objective. Analysis of human tactical doctrine suggests they are more interested in making a statement than winning a battle." "What kind of statement?" "That the Empire can be challenged. That resistance is possible. That defeat is not necessarily final." Thylex 9 paused. "Sir, if they succeed in any significant action against Zetheran Prime, the psychological impact across the Empire could be catastrophic." Intelligence Officer Vex 12 stepped forward. "High Commander, we have completed our analysis of the human prisoner Elena Vasquez. Her recommendations may be relevant to this situation." "Explain." "She has suggested that the Empire consider negotiation." The chamber fell silent. In 3,000 years of expansion, the Empire had never negotiated with an inferior force. Conquest was absolute. Resistance was met with overwhelming force until it ceased to exist. "Negotiation is impossible," High Commander Zek Prime declared. "The Empire does not bargain with rebels." "Sir," Vex 12 continued carefully, "Dr. Vasquez has made several predictions about human behavior that have proven accurate. She warns that military action alone cannot defeat what she calls an idea whose time has come. Ideas can be suppressed like any other form of resistance. The Threx harmony songs suggest otherwise." "Sir, the liberated worlds are not fighting for territory or resources. They are fighting for the right to determine their own future. This is a concept that appears to be inherently attractive to sentient beings." High Commander Zek Prime turned to Admiral Kyrek 7. "Your assessment of our military situation? We will defeat the rebel fleet, sir, but at significant cost, and the victory will not end the rebellion. Our intelligence suggests that dozens of worlds are prepared to declare independence the moment they receive word of this battle, regardless of its outcome. Then we will reconquer them." "Yes, sir. But each reconquest will require significant military resources and will likely generate more resistance. Our strategic analysts project that maintaining control through force alone will require us to expand our military by 500% within 5 years." The implications were clear. The Empire had grown through conquest, not administration. They had never needed large occupation forces because defeated species had always remained defeated. But humans had changed that equation forever. The battle began in the outer system of Zetheran Prime, with a display of raw power that should have ended resistance for another 3,000 years. The Imperial Home Fleet, the most powerful military force ever assembled, opened fire on the approaching rebel vessels with enough energy to sterilize planets. But the rebel fleet did not fight like any enemy the Empire had ever faced. Instead of meeting force with force, they scattered into small groups and attacked from multiple vectors. Human ships used Zetheran shields to absorb damage, while former Imperial slaves piloted captured cruisers with tactics their original designers had never imagined. Most disturbing of all, the rebels were broadcasting throughout the battle. Not military communications, but music, poetry, and messages of hope translated into hundreds of languages. Every species in the galaxy could hear them declaring that freedom was possible, that the Empire's rule was not eternal, that any being could choose to resist. Admiral Sarah Chen commanded the UES Retribution with the calm precision of someone who had already accepted every possible outcome. When Imperial forces destroyed her escorts, she pressed forward. When her shields failed, she used debris for cover. When her weapons overloaded, she rammed the nearest enemy vessel, but her true weapon was not her ship, it was her voice. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen to all Imperial forces," she broadcast on every frequency. "You serve an empire built on the suffering of others. You enforce the will of rulers who see you as tools rather than people. But you have a choice. Every being in this galaxy has a choice. You can continue to serve fear, or you can choose hope." The message reached every ship in both fleets. More importantly, it reached the millions of beings watching from across the galaxy as news of the battle spread through communication networks the Empire had built, but could no longer control. On Imperial vessel after Imperial vessel, crew members began to ask questions they had never asked before. Why did they serve the Empire? What did they gain from conquest? Was this really the natural order of the universe, or simply the will of those in power? The battle reached its climax when the Retribution, burning and damaged but still fighting, broke through the Imperial lines and reached Zetheran Prime's orbital space. Sarah knew she had only moments before overwhelming force would destroy her ship, but moments were enough. "Computer, prepare final broadcast," she ordered. "All frequencies maximum power." The transmission that followed would be remembered across the galaxy for generations to come. Sarah Chen, human admiral of a doomed ship, spoke directly to every being capable of receiving her signal. To every slave, every servant, every conquered soul listening to this message that you are not alone. You are not forgotten, and you are not powerless. The Empire tells you that resistance is futile, but we are proof that resistance is everything. They tell you that defeat is final, but we have shown that defeat is just another beginning. They tell you that the strong must rule the weak, but we know that strength comes from choosing to stand up, not from forcing others to kneel down. The Retribution died in a blaze of light that lit up Zetheran Prime's sky. But the message had been sent, and across the galaxy, beings who had forgotten the meaning of hope began to remember. In the aftermath of the battle, High Commander Zek Prime stood in his command chamber, watching reports flow in from across the Empire. Hundreds of worlds were declaring independence. Imperial garrisons were facing coordinated uprisings. Species that had served faithfully for centuries were suddenly demanding the right to govern themselves. The Empire had won the battle, but they had lost the war for the hearts and minds of the galaxy. "Sir," Admiral Kyrek 7 reported quietly, "we are receiving a communication from the human Dr. Elena Vasquez. She requests permission to address the High Command." Granted, Elena's image appeared on the main display. She looked tired but determined. "High Commander, you have a choice to make. You can continue fighting to maintain an empire that no longer wants to be ruled, or you can help build something better." "You speak of surrender? I speak of evolution. The galaxy has outgrown the need for empires. Beings across 1,000 worlds are demanding the right to determine their own futures. You can be part of that transformation, or you can be swept aside by it." High Commander Zek Prime studied the strategic displays showing the spreading rebellion. Military force could suppress individual uprisings, but it could not defeat an idea. And the idea that every being deserved freedom had already infected the entire galaxy. "What do you propose?" Elena smiled. "A new beginning. The Galactic Confederation. A union of free worlds working together as equals. No rulers, no slaves, no conquered peoples. Just beings choosing to cooperate for mutual benefit." The transformation took place over the following year. The Zetheran Empire, recognizing that its time had passed, formally dissolved itself and became a founding member of the Galactic Confederation. Admiral Kyrek 7, the former Imperial commander, accepted the position of Earth's first alien ambassador. Thank you for watching, and comment for next part.